Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican and a Redneck Follow the World. We are your hosts and surrogate fathers, Juan and Ben. Today, we'll be discussing helping your kids cope with death.
Ew,
Ben?
that's hard.
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's never easy, especially when it's somebody you love that goes away.
Yes. And so it's unexpected is the best word to describe this situation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that this was even a thing. And I brought it up to you, and you're like, I never thought about that either.
And just to catch you guys up as far as with this topic, Ben had the passing of his father. What has it been like?
It was in May.
In May. So, and
Early
you've been
May.
kind of walking out the experience of, or having to walk with your children, the loss of your dad, because your dad was actually really close with your kids.
Correct. So it's been about 4 months now. And he kept in good contact with them, and particularly my oldest daughter. My son, he's 5. And so Solomon comes to me, and I was saying something to him, and he wanted to see a knife that my dad had given me when I was younger. And it's just this really nice, I think it's a Kissing Crane brand. And it has this deer horn handle on it. It's beautiful knife, real shiny. I never took it out of the sheath. I just always kind of loved looking at it. And he wanted to see it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, just be very careful. Don't cut yourself. And when you're, be careful not to drop it. I said, because my dad gave it to me and he's dead now. And I don't want anything to happen to that knife because I can never get anything back from my dead father. And he's like, your dad's dead? What? He's 5. He didn't really understand what was happening at the funeral. He just kind of saw, they called him Poppy. They saw Poppy's body in the casket, and they're like, he's dead, he's in the casket, but they're not really getting, he's not here anymore. And so he's so young, he just doesn't remember. And he's like, your dad's dead? It's like, why? And like, he was concerned for me. But at the same time, I thought, how funny would it be to have someone really close to you if you, Juan, were like, I said something about my dad being dead, and you're like, your dad's dead? It's just, like, how funny would that be?
Yeah, it's like,
to have someone close to you just act like they knew nothing about it. Like, what are you talking about?
I just told you this. This just happened a couple months ago. It's like, where was I? I called you. You're the first person I called. What was I doing?
Are you sure about this? No, but one thing, my daughter, Aria, she's 8, I guess 8.5, really closer to 9 now. And she was real close to him. She would do Skype calls and phone calls, send letters. They would spend hours together. And so it's strange. I'll give you the timeline of what happened. He dies in early May. We bury him about mid-May. So in mid-June, Aria starts coming to us one day, just crying, uncontrollable crying. And we've, when someone dies, as adults, you kind of know how to process it yourself, especially a mature adult in your 30s or 40s or whatever. And you're like, okay, I understand what's happened. I know they're dead. I just got to work through these feelings and figure things out. I didn't understand that kids need someone to hold their hand and help them work it out. So we would let her talk when she wanted to talk. We'd let her look at stuff, share stories, whatever. But we didn't realize she has to process this stuff. And she has zero tools to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, she might figure stuff out, but I just had no clue. And so she starts crying uncontrollably. And she starts confessing all the bad things she's done. And so it was, oh, Daddy, I snuck into the kitchen 2 weeks ago and ate 3 cookies when I know I wasn't supposed to. I'm so sorry. I feel bad for that. And I'm like, well, it's okay. It's good that you're confessing. You're clearing your conscience.
Especially when you just snuck in at you like 6. Not that I've ever done that.
You're like, kid, I just cleaned out the bag. I don't know what you're talking about. No, but then she starts coming and confessing others. Well, I was really mean to my brother last night, and I feel really bad. It's like, well, that's okay. I just thought she was kind of clearing her conscience. We were all having a lot of self-reflection moments. My dad had just died. Okay. But she keeps going through this, and then she starts confessing to stuff we've already discussed and knew about.
Yeah.
I'm like, we know this happened. And then she just mopes like, I just have all these bad thoughts. And I was like, oh, because when someone close to you dies, you get very, you kind of recess into your head a little bit to figure out what's going on in your own life. And then you're sitting here and your kid's doing all this stuff and you're trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on, and I got real concerned for her. And I just realized, oh, she hasn't processed his death yet. Cause I'm kind of let's get it out of the way now, deal with it as much as we can in the moment and move forward. And if it comes up again, we'll deal with it as it comes up. She was not, she kind of pushed it down. I was like, oh, my daughter's dealing with the death of her grandfather. I didn't know. What do you do? And so I called a friend who has professional counseling, like training and stuff. And he said, well, here's some books you can read. Here's some things you can do. And so I am going to share with y'all a few things I did with my daughter because she's super happy and she's quote unquote gotten rid of most of her bad thoughts. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's
there
huge.
is a silver lining to this. And I brought it up to another friend who had lost his dad. And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. I had, And so one thing that really helped is a memorial book. So what I did is I let her go and pick out pictures she liked on the computer and print them off. And then I got her a little binder and we just, a little cheap little binder, and we did a 3-hole punch in it in the pictures, print them off on printer paper. And then I let her color and draw and put stickers and glitter and write, I love Poppy and, best friends or whatever she wanted to write. And she made this whole book of her grandfather and her or her family, whoever she wanted to put in. But every picture had a picture of her and her grandfather. And it was this great book and she loved it and she toted it around. And in the process of making that book, and she started feeling happier. In the process of looking through pictures is another tool. She started feeling happier. And she was, oh, look at this picture. Will you tell me what this is about? And so it became a thing of we're sitting there for hours going through pictures and talking about what each picture was about, what was happening that day, something funny that happened that wasn't in the picture, and allow her to process and to better understand her grandfather and the stories. Okay, this is who he is. And there was just a fear of truly losing the person you love.
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, do I have enough knowledge of that person to move forward in life and still remember them? Or do I need to hang in the sorrow because it's the last true feeling and memory I have of them? I think that's what was happening.
Yeah. That's powerful.
So that's what I had to start helping her through.
Wow. Like it's almost like I see this picture, like it's almost like your daughter had fallen. And instead of getting up, she's allowing herself to stay in the fallen state.
Mm-hmm.
But you as the dad, you come and pick her up and show like, no, let's not stay here. Let's look and enjoy the time that we had with him. Let's cherish the memories and let's move forward.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
Awesome. And out of that, those stories, those pictures, this was the real silver lining. Because everybody likes to, oh, you remember when he was a truck driver, remember when he was a police officer, you have the things on the surface, or remember when he worked at the rehab clinic, counseling people. I started going through all this stuff with her. Well, people from all these walks of life he had led started reaching back and sending us letters saying, I'm so sorry for your loss. They started talking more to us. And in that process, she started talking with them. And one thing that came about this was she wanted to develop her own memories. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm pretty sure my kids are smarter than me, like all of them. I just have more years on them. So they don't realize it yet. Like they think I'm really smart. I'm like, no, when y'all are in your 30s, you're probably going to leave me in the dust. But she's developed these new relationships and these new pen pals with friends of my dad's from 40 years ago. And so now she's developed this new love of writing letters. And so she's like writing letters to these people he knew 40 years ago.
Oh, that's
And
so
they're
neat.
becoming her new friends, but they're in their 60s or whatever. She's writing letters to my mom, her grandmother, and just sending her these great letters, you know. And another way we connected was, I don't know if I said this in our previous Dealing with the Loss of a Father episode, but my aunt died 3 days after my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad died, and then on my mother's side, one of my aunts passed away. And so on Wednesday, we were at a funeral, and then we drove back from Dallas, and 4 days later on Saturday, we were here in Alabama at another funeral for my aunt. And it was like she was fully immersed with my family, but what it allowed her to do is make these contacts, and she's been writing these letters, and she's keeping them all in this box that she has, and she goes back and reads them. And it's really beautiful because it's like, wow, I got to reach down. I truly got to help my daughter, teach her a life skill, and that, you know, death is not necessarily the end. It's just a big transition. It's a big change. How do we move forward? Because it's promised. It's the only thing you get in this world is death.
And
Like,
taxes.
you can avoid taxes. You might have to live in the woods and have nothing, but you can avoid taxes.
And die.
You might die. I don't know.
Well, if you're living in the woods, not paying your taxes, you're probably going to die.
Maybe. I don't know. No, taxes are probably going to have to happen.
Pay your taxes, guys. Just pay them.
Yeah, definitely pay your taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
IRS they're good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's anyways, let's not go down that rabbit trail.
No. We don't like rabbit. We don't want that.
Man, that's beautiful, man. As far as like that, dealing with that, kind of walking them through that process. Was that helpful for you? As far as like, did that help you deal with the loss of your dad? Because now you lost your dad. They lost their grandparents or grandfather. How was that process for you? As far as like looking back and being like, man, I thought I was hurting, but then I see my kids hurting and grieving for the loss of a loved one.
So there's a gratitude in it, because although someone passes, you see all the people their life impacted, and all the people they were able to touch, and the stories and the letters and the cards, which if anyone who sent me a letter, card, story, text, phone call, visit, whatever, I thank you so much. Because you really realize how special that person was. You know, and it's sad that sometimes you don't always. I always appreciated my relationship with him and knew how special he was to me, but I didn't know how special he was to the whole world, to like the world around him, I should say. And so you see these people saying these nice things, talking about the time he helped them do this or the time he influenced him on that, and you're like, wow, this guy lived a great life. You know, he really did do some good in this world, and you feel gratitude and you're thankful also for the people who are willing to reach out and send that message or that gift or whatever. And it helps in a sense. There were times it was taxing. So the one thing I do remember a lot about this process was, you know, I enjoyed talking to her. Of course I would break into tears periodically, but my dad loved Eric Clapton. Like, it was one of his like all-time favorite guitar player musicians. And it was crazy because they just had the jazz music where it just plays the instrumental stuff at his funeral. And when we walked into his funeral, I'm not making this up, it was the strangest thing. The funeral director did not know that. They just had a CD they put on with soft jazz, and it was instrumental only. But when we walked into the funeral home, the song Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton was playing.
Oh, wow.
Like, they could have had any organ music, any jazz music. We just found it really odd that one of his favorite songs by his favorite musicians at his funeral was playing unbeknownst to us.
Wow.
And nobody knew that. Nobody could have arranged that. And we were very, we heard that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. We talked about it. And Aria was like, what is this song? Why is this so important? And I explained that whole thing to her at the funeral. She's like, oh, okay. And so she's like, can we hear it? I'm like, yeah, we'll listen to it when we get back. So she went and listened to it. And she's like, oh, I love this. And so we have an old cell phone that we've disabled from like Wi-Fi and everything. But she uses the video and the pictures to take video and pictures with it. And she records songs she likes on the phone. And so she recorded the song Tears in Heaven to remember it and have it to listen to. She played it so much at one point I said, Aria, either you've got to stop following me and playing that song or I have to leave. Like I'm emotionally about to collapse. You have to give me a couple days without that song. I'm about to die on the inside. I can't. I'm sorry. I know you're hurting, but I'm really hurting too. Will you please just give me some grace and show me some mercy and stop playing Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton? I love you, baby. I'm so glad you're doing better, but I can only handle so much.
Oh, man.
And she wouldn't only play it. She was like singing it. It's already special to hear your kids sing.
Yeah.
But then they're singing that song. You're like, I can't. I can't do this. I need an adult.
Yeah.
I needed someone to walk me through my grieving process at that point.
Yeah, I bet, man.
So,
man, that's crazy. Well, I'm glad everything turned out good as far as like that, and you guys came to the realization with that with Art, because I remember you talking about that and kind of being worried about her just straight up like confessing everything that she was doing wrong. It's like, what's going on? But when you told me, it was like, yeah, she's actually going through the grieving process. Like, it just made sense.
yeah.
It just made so much sense as far as that. Like, and you just don't think about it like as a child, because it's like there's such a dynamic between her and then Solomon, who's like 5, same experience, different effect. He's like, oh, when did that happen? And Arya is like, chasing you around with like this sad song, and it's like stabbing you in the heart. I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Are you hurting as much as I'm hurting? And you're like, yeah, I'm hurting. So it's like, yeah.
She feels all of her emotions.
Yeah. So when you're
Every
able to
last one of them.
be able to walk her through of like a healing process, and that gives you healing process, because now she's healing, you're healing, and it's like as a family you're able to heal. That's awesome.
Oh, it's a process. So if you are a parent and you have a child who experiences that loss with you, if they're starting to act strange, because I just didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah.
No one warned me. And I don't know if it is a thing or not, or if it's just a thing with my kid. But, if there's someone out there who has this same experience, maybe this can be just kind of oh, I get it now. That's why my kid's acting out. And it might not be confessing. It might be a angry boy who's breaking more stuff than usual.
Yeah.
Or a kid who's being real OCD about something. I don't know what kids do, but if you're a parent, you get what I'm saying, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we do want to thank you for listening to A Mexican and a Redneck Father of the World. We love you and we're proud of you.
Mexican and a redneck father of the world.